Mm-hmm. So, unfinished business is, well, there is a repatterning that is happening, a recalibration, and you call this in some ways the past. Okay, then let us see what this is connections to. In particular, that this portal of time, which we have spoken about a number of times in the last month or two, even on these calls, this particular vortex, a pocket and portal of time that you are in collectively as a whole on your earth. You are revisiting literally, how should we say that? So that it sounds, or can meet you where you are. You are, in fact, actually revisiting past frequencies that were left unfinished. And that could be easily seen by your circumstances, but sometimes what it is necessary is to literally have a callback. How do we say that? It's like a boomerang. There it is. It's like an echo. There is a boomerang or an echo, and it comes back around, and there's a point where it's necessary to catch it and analyze it. Finalizing it does not mean that it's the ending. It means that there's a change where there's a cut. No. How should we say that? You change the energy about what it is that you sort of seem to let it go. Now, that can come up in different ways with people. And we're not just talking interpersonal relationships. There may be unfinished business in very practical matters in your life. But we are recognizing on this particular portal of time, in what you're calling the intensity of the summer months, or what we would say is the eclipses time, there's a push through on a very particular, now is it 2221, the masculine energies that are shifting on your planet. Why we talk about this is in kind of a way regarding your astrology, or what you would call the astronomy, the stars, the planets, the energy grids that are happening on your plane do affect you as a whole. And you could say that, as you already know, some of your planets are in retrograde. They're technically not actually going backwards, but on an energetic level, they are revisiting, reattuning, re-looking, re-amplifying, there's the thing she says sometimes, there's this redoing of all these things. So energetically, it is revisiting the past of things that were left undone, so that you can recalibrate and set yourself free from certain kinds of things in order to move forward. And that doesn't mean that there's always a cut. And we don't mean, what we're really trying to say here is, sure, you may change relationships and people may move on. This is one thing that sometimes is a sticking point for our human friends. Oh, then that means I must cut that person out and move on. These kinds of conversations sometimes come up with us when we are talking about these kinds of things. But we don't mean that that is an absolute. Oh, that means you must. We're saying that there is a change in that energy. There's a recalibration of that energy. There's a re-looking at that energy. And it's time to make a change. That can be things like a cut or a clearing, or I'm done with this, and a movement forward. A huge part of that are themes that energetically at this time, and that was part of your question that you are noticing now, is the themes of the masculine, the father, the patriarchy, the energies of the, oh, there it is, the planet of Mars, even the ways in which your warring life experience on the planet, internally and externally, are happening, and how it is to recalibrate that so you change the timeline going forward. People are looking at that now. You are all investigating that in yourself and in relationships outside of yourself. So very often the things that were left undone must cycle back around so that you get to have the opportunity to revisit it. So you recalibrate to a new way as you move forward. Now, how that shows up in what you're calling, how you said it, dearest one, timelines. How should we say this? in order for clearing of timelines, and we know that that word is kind of been a new thought form for some of our human friends to consider, that there are many streams of realities simultaneously happening, and you could call those streams of realities timelines. There is as we said at the beginning, a field around your earth to a certain extent that has been lowered. It's like it doesn't have the same buffer right now. Energetically, that is so much of what you're seeing in the world. It is a recalibration. So of course, on a personal level, you're going to see that in yourself. And the themes around that are indeed about the masculine, about the energy of the forces that are and have been in domination on this planet. The force of the Divine Mother, the force of the feminine on this planet is in a resurrection period of time. And so what needs to be seen by humanity and individuals is their ways of being the masculine and the feminine inside themselves, the ways in which they are offering that into the world, and in their relationships, how their relationships or their scenarios and situations are mirroring the balance or the imbalance of that, because that is the same thing happening outside of yourselves. Thank you, machine. So the connection to you seeing those themes, however they show up as a revisit, is very often, if you really look deeper, having to do some way with the divine masculine and the divine feminine coming into harmony. And we don't just mean interpersonal relationships, although that very often is a really specific way that it can directly show up for individuals. We also say in situations, you can recalibrate to something that happened to you with your father, or to you with a previous lover. And these kinds of, we don't just mean the males all the time either. We do mean, of course, a lot of that, but we don't mean just that. Because if you are a female, you may be recalibrating how it is your own masculine is operating in the world, and whether or not that truly serves you. This is a part of what is the reflection. So in your example, dear one, you are seeing that there are things that you and others have realized were left undone. To a certain extent, that's another reflection of what is the recalibration of what is left undone within you. And that experience is just showing you that. Yes, you're working it out with that person one way or the other. But again, you are working it out within you. And we would dare say that that has a lot to do with the masculine and feminine counterbalancing, becoming in more balance with each other, noticing where your own masculine and your own feminine is either out of whack or out of balance, or some ways that you need to shift that, calibrate, to align in ways that are more harmonious for you as an individual. Because if you see the same theme, if you calibrate your own, there is so much that happens outside of you in a balanced way. That's the experience. We hope that that has landed some things that were potent and helpful.